back for another episode of me ranting about MMOs. This is basically a two-part episode because I'm still on this, still not over it. Hashtag never over it. But it's what I want in MMOs. PvP optional. So let's go over the list from last episode because buddy, it is quite the list at this point of what I want. I'm a needy bitch like that. Massive amounts of customization. I don't know, I might just do some duels, fuck around in the background, but massive amounts of customization. I want crafting to mean something, meaning at least on par. Like, I'm not saying, like, you need to make crafted items the best items in the game. Like, I would like it if the end tier stuff crafting actually outshines, at the very least, and I'll keep emphasizing that, at the very least, store bots. I can understand, for example, you know, hey, it's a game about going out and being adventurer. I get that. Like, I understand that at that point you're going to want to make boss drops, like area bosses, stuff like raid items. You're going to want to make those the best in the game, because that's what people want to do, and you want to reward them for that. But at the same time, at least on par with the store stuff, I don't feel like that's asking too much. Unfortunately, I've yet to encounter an MMO that agrees with me, which is depressing. And so we go on.
Round two.
Point 2. I want the crafting to mean something. PvP optional, because again, I don't like engaging, like, I want to engage as much as I feel comfortable at a given moment, not more. And, well. Well. That's that. Was meaningful crafting, PvP optional, no subscription. You see, my list's kind of starting to get a bit bigger, and it's why I fully understand that
Round 3.
Difficult, if not outright impossible, to expect it. It's doable, but not likely. Well, there were a lot of them coded what I would like to see, but that one I definitely understand companies not doing, because my god, the fucking spec, the game requirements to do would be astronomical, and that's custom effects that you can only get through crafting. Like, a lot of them have things where it's like, for example, again, that's more the VR stuff will either make this even worse or significantly easier. I'm actually going to say worse in this instance, is like, they have things where it's like, well, this world doesn't have this concept. Like, for example, like, if you've seen modern bows, for example, like, the bows that have, like, the weights, the pulley system reworks, like, stuff like the really high pound draw bows that give you a lot of firepower, like the top grade bows of the modern era, like things like that, using pulleys on a bow, even like just the extra ratcheting strength and like draw strength that can give you wouldn't exist in a medieval setting. Like, that's not something they would consider, like things like that. But in things like Tosan VR MMO, they, you know, it's like the world doesn't know that, I do, and the game understands my physics. And so, like, what he ends up doing is he ends up making, like, for example, in Tosan, the guy actually ends up making a shield bow, basically, where it's basically he flicks a switch and it goes from shield mode to bow mode, like, back and forth, basically. And and so it's like, if you understand how it works and like trying to do something from our victory, you know, so like, for example, you break down, like, you have stuff that simulates something. Like you say,
Round 2.
you know how to make turn nightshade into poison in real life. Like you understand like the motions of doing something. I don't know why you would. I'm just saying for like the point of hypotheticals here. But it's like you know something in real life, being able to compensate for it. Like this is one of the instances in which the Sword Art Online, I have grudges with that series as a whole, but the current sort alternative one, Gun Gale Online, that one's really well. But it's like, for example, one of the characters, M, he knows how to shoot in real life. He knows what's going into aiming and everything like that. In the game, you have basically, you have a guide. Like, they give you bullet lines and stuff where it's like, you know, aim assist, basically, where it's like, if you put your finger on the trigger before you attack, basically, if you put your hand on the trigger, it shows the line, but it shows the line to everyone. So, like, you see where your bullet's going to go, and your target sees where your bullet's going to go. So, like, if you're aiming at someone, they'll see the line terminating on them and know where the shot's coming from, stuff like that. M knows how to snipe in real life, so he actually lines everything up without using the line, and then just rapidly depresses the trigger all at once, so it instantly shoots. And since he understands how bullets work, the physics adjusts. Gun Gale Online is a basically MMO FPS. Well, VR MMO FPS. God, acronyms get huge in the future when you think about it, because it's a first-person FPS, first-person shooter. You know, it's amazing how we can break things down in English. And, well, every language, I'm sure. But, it's like massively multiplayer online virtual reality first-person shooter is what that statement is set out. Or VR MMO FPS, virtual reality massively multiplayer online first-person shooter. That's a mouthful. Anyway, but... And so it's like, if you have real knowledge, trying to apply it, I'm more for having it have mixed results than just flatly always working, but it'd be cool to see. Like, for example, like, if you are, say, a bow nut, like, or a sword nut, and you understand why a katana is no better than a regular sword, more on that later, because I do. Like, that's the thing. I'm not token weeb. I am an anime aficionado, but I am full weeb, thank you very much. Like, people romanticize katanas. It needs to stop. But they're folded over 1,000 times and renowned for this. From a metallurgy standpoint, you're right. The techniques there were far ahead of their time. The end result, however, is a sword that was about as good as everyone else's at the time, especially in the 1500s. God, that's an annoyingly loud effect. You know, I really should be deflecting more and parrying less, but can you tell I don't berserker often, or like assassin at all? Well, I mean, if you're not gonna attack me, victory! But, yeah, and it's, like, from a metallurgy standpoint, katanas are amazing. From an actual weapon standpoint, they're thoroughly average. The reason being is, compared to mainland countries, Japan's iron was of significantly lower purity. So as a result, they needed to fold their swords over 9 million times to make a workable blade. Victory! Like, that's what it boiled down to. It wasn't, we have these great weapons because we've done this. It's, we need to do all this to make weapons that are serviceable. It's stuff like that. And of course, depending on the era's swords, they might cut better, but actually end up being worse in a fight. For example, in the 1100s, because they were still making katana. Well, I shouldn't say katanas because swords actually tended longer back then. But, yeah, try and wrap your head around that. Look at a Nodaichi sometime. It's fucking insane. It's what the Kensei has here, is a Nodaichi. But, the Orochi has a katana. But, in the 1100s, swords, more often than not, if you choose to look at them, edge is a, very generous term sometimes. Basically just a giant thick metal bar that you hit someone with. Like, it'd cut, but it's more of a rip than a cut.
Round
Like
one.
a very dull compared to today's blades. Maybe I should take that off, Jesus. But that's the thing. But because of that, though, also, people did not block like this. Like, what you're seeing that shit where it's like, yeah, I'll just take that. Yeah, like, the twist is a lot more reminiscent of how blocks would actually happen. Because taking all that force makes your arms go numb. Physics.
Victory.
But if it was someone with a katana versus someone with one of those giant metal bars, the giant metal bar person would go a lot more for that. Because, sure, the reverb would fuck your arms up after 6 or 7 blocks, but if you could snap the other person's sword in 1 or 2, suddenly it's a whole lot more worth it. And then you're the only one with a weapon. So, despite the fact that at that point, a katana would have a significantly sharper cutting edge, credit where credit is due.
Victory.
But since there's so much less end material there, it would snap if they tried to use it the way
Round
these
3.
characters do. I think that's part of why this game actually did its homework, and this is one of the characters that doesn't have a basic guard stance. It's because if they tried to do guards the way that the people with giant swords do, the sword would break in a matter of moments. It's just not feasible, like blocking with an axe. But yeah, gone far afield. But it's basically like the ability to apply with mixed results physics, and not just in that. I'm referring to in things like, for example, the concept of a grenade. Like, if there's something in, say, this is going back to Tosan OVR MMO, you have something that naturally explodes, like some kind of explosive ore is what they use, but like, you know, any kind of like natural or magical explosive, what have you. Like, for example, there it's an explosion ore, like if you accidentally hit this rock, it explodes. And like, it, like, basically just really touchy, explosive ores. Some things do plants that just burst into poison if you touch them, things like that. Like the concept of basically the most crude grenades in Tosan were, of course, people just putting one of those ores in a sack and then chucking it at someone for the explosions, and being able to find it out. But like, that's not a concept that would have occurred in the natives. The natives would just be like, I didn't think I had it for Centurion. But, and so like that never occurred to them, but like, you know, the player just did it. Like, you know, they know of grenades from, you know, life. We've had them since the First World War, technically. It's that kind of thing. And you know, you have the means to create a pseudo grenade. Eventually the main character actually distills it down even further and is able to make glass flask grenades with alchemy. But like crafting. But alright. I got a little overzealous, but it's fine.
Incontinence!
That execute.
Victory!
But yeah, it's just the ability to do stuff like that is what I'd like to see
Round
in games.
3.
But you'd have to code all of that. And then, of course, how do you balance ideas like that with the rest of the game? Like, yes, those tactics would have to be, by their very nature, would have to be powerful. But how powerful before it's too powerful and breaks the balance of the game for those who don't want to and want a more RP feel? What do you do then? Like, at that point, whose happiness matters more? And the correct answer for a game designer who wants to make money is everyone matters the same. And so you're left in a no-win situation
Victory!
if you don't balance it correctly. This is something that tabletop roleplay has run into several times. That's why it is where it is, and why customization there is so much better than... Customization is also so much better there is because you're dealing with another person. So, like, you know, you can talk to them anytime. Hey, I want to do this. Can I do it? Yeah, what's going on? Whereas with electronics, you have to have pre-coded responses to all these. It's like, can I do this? No. With a person, you can just go, okay, let's work out how to do this. Like, you have this idea. That idea is pretty neat. Let's try to make it happen. Why not? And so you sit down and you work with the person. You can't do that with video games, obviously. It's already pre-coded. And so until we get, like, full VR and, like, the ability to transfer thought directly as data is the technological leap I'm looking for. Like, once we reach that point, because going back to last episode's discussion on those libraries for inputs, that's essentially what those are, is just converting keyboard presses into something the computer can read as data. Like, it's stuff like that.
Victory!
And the ability to do that is pretty darn cool by itself, but once we get to thought to data, programming is going to be so much easier.
Round 2.
Programming as a job will probably become obsolete at that point. To be honest, though. Because and we're just taking thoughts to go, we should be able to do this. With, of course, the proper setup, like lab and whatnot. At that point, anyone with the proper lab, like, technology, like, setup is a programmer. Like, it doesn't need to be a paid position at that point, I guess, is what I'm saying. You stop that! Bitch. Anyway. God, that was satisfying. I'm not good against Berserkers this set, apparently. Anyhoodle.
Round 3.
But once we do that, we'll be able to have any kinds of games. Granted, there is, of course, the concerns of if you can make any reality you want, why give two shits about this one? Which, admittedly, is a concern, and probably something that's holding those techs back. Is people worry that, you know, if you have a perfect world at your fingertips that isn't real, quote unquote, how do you define real? But then why care about this one? And they worry that it's going to lead to basically decaying of your life outside of it, which is fair, but at that point, we'll be able to communicate at the speed of thought, at the speed of light, you know? Not quite. Well, actually, depending on how you view electricity, maybe. But, like it, bitch. There can be only one. But that's
Victory!
also there's a weird glitch with how loading works in game modes like this. So it's like they come in slowly and not all at
Round
once.
two.
Like now every round people are paired, like me with this Nobushi and whatnot. But that first one, as I'm sure you noticed, not the case. Oh, fuck you, you hoe. And done. And of course, I have to watch my kill. Because the comps do actually go for the revives, and, well, unfortunately, unless you execute, not much you can do. Yay, revive. Yeah. And now they'll both be coming over here from somewhere. Don't know where, but I know they'll be here. They always go for revives. Nope! Well, I tried. That's the thing, though, is I can be saved. One kill of mine can't. Yay. Anyone? Okay, that's fine.
Victory!
Assholes. I'm the reason we won, you assholes. Anyway. Yeah. I've completely lost my train of thought again.
Round 3.
Well, I promise the third episode won't be as much of me just bitching about life and why being me sucks. Don't be me, even though I live in a country that is theoretically wealthy. I just like doing that. I try to avoid doing that because it's not an execution, and that way they can get them up, but I enjoy doing it all the same. It is immensely satisfying. We gonna do this again, I think. I think we about to see some shit. I guard the doors.
Victory!
So we can have victory. Yeah. Next episode will probably be a lot more of here's what I'm planning on doing, or at least talk about what I'm thinking about doing. Planning implies a lot more drive than I have, but we're on that next episode. Girl, don't worry about it. Yeah. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.